maybe to pitch into that one remarkable topic that we had on day one is that people who we saw in the previous editions of MMS came up and said, yeah, I used to follow only the config manager sessions because that's in my day-to-day job. And for this MMS, I'm particularly focusing on the EMS stuff because the other stuff, I've been to the sessions, it's my day-to-day routine. I can still learn, but I know a lot about it already. And now they just focus on the sessions on EMS because they know it's probably going to, in the near future, land up on their desk in their day-to-day job anyway. So that was a remarkable comment. That's the first time I heard that.
You hear a lot of people talking about proof of concepts coming up. So people are actually looking
I think
replacing the old MDM for Intune.
Yeah, one way or another, people are being forced into the cloud. If it's with identity or even with mobile device management, people are trying to do proof of concepts like Peter mentioned, and they need to get a hang on it. So one way or another, they need to go and start with Intune, EMS, all the components around it.
They're no longer hesitant. I think a year, especially like 2 years ago, it was like, nah, config manager, that's my thing. I'm not interested in Intune or anything cloud-based. And you see that shift over 2 years. That's been quite a change.
So actually, I've got some numbers here that I thought were pretty interesting from some Microsoft decks. So October to December of last year, there were 3,100 new EMS customers. January to March of this year, over 4,500 new customers. Yeah. So these are obviously people that had no interest before last year. So you're talking 10,000 new customers that probably have no experience, no exposure to EMS, and now they're here to learn it.
And Microsoft is pushing to also implement it, not only selling the license, but they are helping customers and partners to implement.
Right.
Yeah, except for Microsoft, you will see that also in Europe. A lot of companies before a few years ago, they said, well, we don't trust Microsoft, we don't trust Amazon, we don't trust the cloud. And people are shifted away from that. They are now experiencing the cloud because they see that large companies are onboarding. For example, I will call a name out. It's like, for example, Deloitte. They are a big company. They're going to the cloud with mobile device management. Well, if something goes wrong in that trust of the cloud, Microsoft has serious issues. And they see that big customers are trusting them. So smaller customers, hospitals, they're also going to gain trust in that cloud scenarios.
But also, in the Netherlands, also things change for regulators, and financial companies are allowed to move to the cloud, where a couple of years ago that was really not done. Banks.
And also, I think you had a bank, if you would call a bank 5 years ago to go to Office 365, they would say, no way, you're crazy. And now they already moved to Office 365. So the next step is to go and onboard an MDM solution like EMS, for example.
And another thing too, there's just, I think people didn't understand that there's really no private information that's stored there,
exactly.
Right? So once people kind of see that that the data that's there is just generic data, there's nothing to worry about, And another thing too, that going back to these same numbers, AirWatch in the same 2 time spans, their sales numbers went from 2,000 new customers to 1,000 new customers. So I think probably we're seeing a lot of customers that are migrating off of other MDM solutions and migrating to EMS and to Intune. So we're probably seeing those type of people are here, and it's not that they've never done mobile device management. It's just that they're changing products.
But also from a pricing perspective, I think there's a lot of interest there as well. That's one of the arguments that
you have the price part, but also, to be honest, if you saw what a few years ago the feature set of Intune was, for example, that was compared to other ones. It's the same thing. You have VMware and Hyper-V.
It's depending on what you want as an organization. Do you want the Swiss knife with all the wheels and the bells and whistles on it, or do you just want a simple solution to do one simple thing?
Right.
That's where also...
There was nothing better 5 years ago. I mean, Mobileye and AirWatch, they were established brands with a lot of feature sets. Intune was nowhere near that. Yeah. And now they're closed the gap. And
but if you look at doing a proof of concept, replacing Mobile Iron, for instance, and you ask the customer so what are you actually using? Because it's always the feature set compared,
it's compared to price.
And you're missing this, you're missing it. But if you ask, what are you actually using? It's just
a tiny bit.
Subset and setting a password code.
I need a password.
And encryption and maybe do some checks.
Yep.
And
but it's like you said also, Peter, it's also the integration story.
Yeah.
Microsoft has a great integration story across their products, which other vendors are lacking currently.
Yep.
Yeah, for me that's a real big one too, because the integration with Azure AD and the integration with the Office suite of products that you get with Intune, you're not going to get with any other vendor. No. And I mean, let's face it, we've all been doing AD for since 2000. So almost 20 years we've been doing Active Directory. It's the foundation of everything we do, right? So why not tie our MDM into it?
So Kent Agelund and me wrote the last year, I guess. It was a long period because the product is always changing and we do it next to our work. Wrote a book, Microsoft EMS Implementing and Planning, I think.
Planning and Implementation.
Planning.
I think that's the name of my book.
So it's all about setting up a proof of concept, a successful proof of concept. It's not only guidelines how to do it, but also what kind of things you would like to check. Be aware to
all the scenarios.
Writing down scenarios exactly.
And it's both cloud only and
and hybrid.
Yep. So to give a small feedback on your book, as it took a long time, also as a reviewer, I think next time you need to do small subsections of the new features coming along every month. I think that would be a good idea.
I think our next major update will be Windows 10. So if Redstone arrives, then a lot of new features will also arrive to Windows 10 and the manageability of data, enterprise data protection.
Looking forward into that, Peter.
Next revision of the book then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Just released and now already talking about the next.
Well, that's NDA, for sure. No, I think coming by, I think the product rapidly released new features, and that on a monthly basis was sometimes hard, because even if we did presentations on a feature set, sometimes in the morning we were doing a dry run, and during the session the whole thing was updated. So it also surprised us sometimes. But on the other hand, on all the features they're releasing, I think Microsoft is working very well on getting parity with competing products.
But also for new versions. I had an example during our class on Monday. Like Samsung has a new feature like Smart Lock, and that bypasses all your security measurements you configure with or AirWatch or Mobile Iron, or in this case Intune. And Microsoft is able, because of that servicing model, to react very quickly. So I think they are currently the only vendor who is able to manage that setting and disable Smart Lock.
Yeah, I think that's a good feedback, Peter, as well, and that's something we see in the product team. When the product team came out with 15.11 and a new servicing model, we were like, okay, telemetry data, that was for a lot of customers also like, oh, again, data into the cloud, woo. It still is a discussion, but more and more customers are tapping into, because they see the value of that. I mean, they see that if there are new functionality coming out and needs to be supported within a month or 0-day releases, the thing just comes through the servicing channel, and they can be updated in, a day? I don't know. And that makes it really interesting to go forward to the business, that they do not need to say, well, we need to do planning and updating, and 3 months later we will have this functionality in. So that is something, the agility to the business is an important part, and I think Microsoft is doing a great job on that.
Yeah, it has. What I hear at customers is that they embrace it. They're happy because they can see fixes or new capabilities really fast into the product. On the other hand, it does require them and their IT teams to be like, on the spot and then really follow up and then keep working on their knowledge and keep changing or adapting the processes that they have. So whereas in the past you had, okay, we implement year 1 and 3 years later we have a service pack or we need to make some modifications, that's fine. Yeah. But now it's like always being on the edge, always adopting, always changing. And that's difficult, especially for larger organizations, that's really difficult. They don't have that, big ships move slowly, I think that's a saying in English, so it's difficult to keep up.
Yeah, but also I think that's also a message for us as MVPs, but also community people, is to get those people up to speed with all the latest and greatest features. And even for us it's difficult to keep up. I mean, with all the release cycles, it's for us it's almost or it is difficult to almost keep up with. So I can understand that other people that are not in the day-to-day business to find the same expertise is not easy.
Yeah. But the thing is the users expect it, right?
Yeah.
You know, people now are so used to, you know, they get this shiny new iPhone or whatever, and you know, they go to sleep and they wake up the next morning and it's got this new feature set, and they didn't do anything and they want to utilize it. Well, I mean, we have to react faster than we used to in IT, you know, just to keep up with the customers' demands and their needs.
Especially businesses, yeah. And,
you know,
and
if
also
you didn't react fast, go back to this scenario with this security feature that Peter mentioned. You know, if we couldn't react fast to that, then what? You've got users out there that could bypass security for months or weeks or however long.
True.
You know, so we got to be able to adapt.
Yeah, and also there where Microsoft is heading to with all the shadow IT, you know, CFO buying some Dropbox for business or whatever. And then how do you know as an IT company? How do you know? So having that kind of tooling to discover that kind of applications gives you the opportunity to react on it and to manage it, in fact. So I think that is also a thing that Microsoft is really focusing on, and they're doing a good job on discovering all those non-business applications, or maybe for business but not managed.
Yeah.